Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 573, we're going to talk about King Kong. Well, kind of. Kogla the Titan Ape. For 6 mana, we get a 7/6 ape. Now, that is perfect stats because for commander damage, 7 is one of the 3 magic numbers. Probably the most common of the 3 magic numbers. 3 hits will kill a player for commander damage, so that's cool. But when Kogla enters the battlefield, it fights up to one creature you don't control. Up to, meaning you don't have to, you can choose 0. But whenever Kogla attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Okay. Number 3. 2 mana, return target human you control to its owner's hand to make Kogla indestructible this turn. So that is awesome. All 3 of those are relevant. It's kind of its own removal, and then super removal on attack. So the very first card where my mind went here was, oh, by the way, I put another card on top of Kogla here. Kogla is in a purple sleeve. Now, I know I've been using purple sleeves on a few of these, but there's a specific reason why Kogla is in a purple sleeve. And we'll tell you a little later on in the video. But the very first card I thought of was liquid metal coating, because this way, when he attacks, it doesn't matter what it is. You can turn it into an artifact, and then he can destroy it. So that's where my mind went first off. Now, Kogla is expensive, so we've got to get out there and play him. So let's go through our ramp package, shall we? We have a Soul Ring, a Migration Path, Harrow, Untamed Wilds. We're playing mono green, so, we got Gaia's Touch. Play 2 forests a turn. Now, obviously, we're playing with an insane amount of forests, something like 29 or 30 forests. The Kodama's Reach, Karametra's Acolyte. She also doubles as a human. Not that we want to keep putting this back in our hand, but, it's a human if we need be. Colony Heart Expedition, Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, Wild Growth, and Llanowar Elves. I threw the Wild Growth in there simply because it's 1 mana and it lives through a board wipe. Now, we have got humans. Not a whole lot of humans. I don't have the Eternal Witness. That is the best human for Kogla. I'm telling you, it's just perfect. If I had another witness, this is the spot where I'd be putting it in. But in lieu of that, we do have some things like, Borderland Ranger. Yes, you get the land to your hand, but if you every turn you can put the Borderland Ranger back in your hand and keep doing it to make sure you have that land drop every single turn. Slippery Bog Bonder. This is a new one. Flash Hexproof. Now, with enough mana, you can just keep doing this on everybody's turn. Enters the battlefield. You put a Hexproof counter on target creature. That would be mighty sweet to have on Kogla. Then, of course, you get to move counters, but the Hexproof counter is the reason why it's in here. It's a human. It has a ETB Hexproof counter, and you can put it back in your hand, and you can give Hexproof to all your creatures. What other creatures, you ask? We'll get to those. Garenbrig Carver. Now, this acts as kind of a giant growth thing. So you play the adventure side. It goes off to the adventure. You can cast the Carver, and then it's a human, so you can put it back in your hand and make Kogla indestructible. And then rinse and repeat. Setessan Petitioner. Now, this is the life gain engine right here. I know it's just 1 card, so I didn't really do anything else with life gain, but gain life equal to your devotion to green, and you can just pop it back to your hand with Kogla. That's kind of sweet. Hornbash Mentor. Put a trample counter on a non-human creature. Also, we'd like to have trample on Kogla. And then all your trample creatures get a 1/1 counter is what he does. Now, Cartographer. There are a few, comes into play. You can return a land card from your graveyard to your hand on the off chance that you've, maybe cycled your slippery karst or whatever. But the reason why I really got it in there is Evolving Wilds. And now I know what you're thinking. Evolving Wilds in a mono green deck sounds crazy. But if you get the Cartographer and the Evolving Wilds, that's some sweet action. That is deck thinning at its finest right there. Every turn. Now, that's kind of where I started from. And I was like, you know what? That's where I want to be. But I felt like I needed more creatures. And so I had thought, and yes, you can do, King Kong, Mighty Joe Young came to my mind, because Grun the Lonely King, in the right circumstance, just packs 420, right? I mean, we've got a lot of green mana ramp, and, I was like, hey, it's another ape. And then I went to Ancient Silverback, that's a 6/5 ape. And I thought, you know what? We're onto something there. So, tribal apes, right? But not really hardcore tribal apes. So, Silverback Shaman, Gorilla Titan, Gorilla Berserkers. Now, I did not use Tree Monkey. I don't know what the current wording on Tree Monkey is, but I think I've got an 8th or 9th. It's a white border Tree Monkey that says it's an ape. Now, we all know it's not in reality. It might be in the game, but it's not an ape because I learned, and I'll be quite frank with you, I learned at the same time I was teaching my children that exactly the difference between a monkey and an ape. And I will share that with you now. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with the cartoon show called VeggieTales, but there's that song that gets stuck in your mind. You know what I'm talking about. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. Even if it has a monkey kind of shape. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. It's an ape. Yeah. So, Barbary apes. Yeah, it's a bear, but it's an ape, right? Gorilla Chieftain. That's sweet enough to have. I was actually had one out, and I realized I had a 7th edition foil, and I'm always going to use those because that's baller. Gorilla Warrior. That's right from Portal. This way, I've got a few low drops too, and Apes of Wrath. Now, this was way back when there was more punny cards than there are now in Tempest. I'm sure Mark Rosewater had something to do with this because he loves a good pun. Obviously, a play off the term Grapes of Wrath. That would be the reason why Kogla is in a purple sleeve, because it's also a grape ape reference. I know. Everybody's probably just stopped watching. But I've got Renata in there mainly. We're done with the apes right now. Well, kind of done with the apes. Renata's in there. We are playing mono greens. A lot of permanents. Figured why not. And additional 1/1 counter. That gets a lot of things, that 1 damage matters, especially when you're talking about commander damage, Primal Rage, giving them all trample. Rapid Vigor is a card I don't know that I've seen anyone else play ever. This is the perfect. Okay, well, now granted, Wrath of God Damnation does not allow for regeneration. That's fine. Most of the commonly used ones now do. So we've got a restock to get 2 cards back, obviously. Once in Future is an amazing card. Some card draw in Harmonize, Hunter's Insight, and Return of the Wild Speaker. I feel like in this deck we've got to be real careful with Return of the Wild Speaker because we might deck ourselves with it. Now, let's pump up those creatures, shall we? We have got stuff like Loxodon Warhammer because, it grants that trample. Lifelink and +3 is a bonus. Gorgon's Head, Trample and Death Touch. Y'all know I love how that works together. It feels like legal cheating. um, you know, Overcome and Overrun. Clothis Design, all plus a bunch, especially Clothis Design. Man, that's, ooh. Fully Grown. The reason why I've got Fully Grown in there is, okay, I'm not going to lie. I had 2 copies of the same card in here with different arts from different sets, and I went to log it in on Architect, which is, I'm so glad I do that now. And I realized I had 2 copies of the same card, and I was like, well, can't have that. So I had the Ikoria binder open right beside me, and I went, well, you know what? Getting permanent trample in addition to a giant growth is worth that extra 2 mana. So, Primal Bellow is just a beast of a card or shall I say, an ape of a card in mono green. Aspect of the Hydra is kind of the same way, and Colossification. It's just comical. Yes, I do have a few cards that nerf enchantments. We don't have a whole lot of them in here, but +20/+20 is, I'll be honest with you, this is stats I never thought I would see on an aura. Ever. I just assumed they would never print a card that did that. But I am sure glad they did. Let's see. Got a Fog. Doesn't really fall into any other category, but it's a Fog. So now we've got removal. Now this is a removal deck. The commander itself is removal in a couple of different ways, So we have got, I went pretty deep with the removal. Crows and Grip, Beast Within, Back to Nature, Bramble Crush, Creeping Mold, Lignify. To me, it counts. Tribute to the Wild, Naturalize, Prey Upon, Even Desert Twister, Plummet, Pierce the Sky, and Clip Wings, because no flyers. We all saw what King Kong does to flyers. And Harmonic Convergence. Now, this is another one. Since we went through Theros 2.0, a lot of, enchantments are as popular as they've ever been. And we've got, there was the commander deck a while back that had enchantment base. So enchantment decks are real. They're out there. And you know what? At instant speed, just returning them all to the top of a library, sometimes that can be a game-winning thing. Now, Treetop Village was the very first non-basic land I put in the deck because, you guessed it, it turns into an ape. Because it doesn't have a tail. Anyway, Mosswort Bridge, I figured in this particular deck, the, total power of 10 is probably not going to be hard to achieve. Orin Reef the Vastwood, just to get some more counters out there. Temple the False God, Gingerbread Cabin, and Rogue's Passage. Because Rogue's Passage, we're getting there. We're getting there. If just the colossification on our commander is big game, right? So that is Kogla. Probably more of a straightforward deck. There's no crazy combo or anything like that. It is, this is how we're winning. Because let's face it, when you're King Kong, that's what you do. And I get it. I get the fact that they didn't actually do the King Kong thing on, but if you see that art, it's King Kong. But because they probably didn't want to spend the money to buy the IP for Godzilla and King Kong in the same. That would have been an expensive set, wouldn't it? At least for them to make. But that is it for Kogla, deck number 560 or 573. Got that one done. And I have got now, I am on a roll with the Ikoria and the Ikoria Commander 2020 decks. But depending on when I finish these decks, I may have one or two slip through that are like older, like really older, because Ikoria gave us some cards that I need for other decks. So I guess it would help if I wasn't fuzzy, huh? There. Ikoria did give me some cards that I need for some of these 30 or 40 ish year that are partially built. So that's one or two of those may sneak in every once in a while. So not to worry. But that's what I've got for today. I appreciate everybody watching. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and hope everybody's safe. And I appreciate y'all watching, and let me know what you think. Right now, we're going to shuffle and cut.